Hey everybody, this is Friday, February 3rd, 2017. And it's just about exactly 10:45 in the morning here in Northern California. And I'm going to try to be a lot more brief today and keep it to one tape, 40 minutes, 42-minute tape. I'm going to try something different and get into my notes a little sooner this time so that I can just go through some of the thoughts I've had this past week and some of the current events that have come up in this past week. We had Milo try to speak to a group of what was expected to be about 200 people in Berkeley, California, right down the street from where I am. Well, down the street, it's about 160, 70 miles, I guess. But I have spent a lot of time in Berkeley. One of my sisters lived there, and in an adjacent town, the town of Albany, right next door. She went to Berkeley. I had a niece. I think both my nieces were at Berkeley. And you got this guy, Robert Rausch, and, I've heard this guy in the Reich, whatever his name, Robert Reich. He's a professor there at Berkeley, I guess. And one of my nieces had him, and I told her I was impressed, that I really liked the guy, and now I'm hearing something altogether different and seeing some things that I think are inflammatory. I don't think that they really help the overall cause for solutions. And this is really what I kind of wanted to touch on here. And how, it's good that we're all outraged, but we've got to direct our focus our attention. Don't be distracted. Understand who George Soros is. First of all, if I'm speaking to communists right now, devout socialists, anarchists, that whole group of people that are just against everything the establishment is for, and these people perceive, presumably, that Donald Trump is establishmentarian and that he's the epitome, the exemplification of a capitalist, of which they are, of course, against. So anybody out there that says, well, wait a minute, there's a whole huge distinction between being a capitalist and being a crony capitalist. It's much further apart than apples and oranges, okay? Times 10, let's say. It's comparing apples and oranges times 10. And that George Soros is really the epitome, the exemplification of a miserable crony capitalist. And he's supporting these groups, these provocateurs, these troublemakers that cover their faces. They're ashamed of showing their faces because they know their own behavior is reprehensible and it's outrageous, and that even people that agree with their overall political economic philosophy of communism disagree with their behavior, and wouldn't, if they were employers, they wouldn't keep them. If they were landlords, they wouldn't let them stay. And they know that they would be persecuted because of their violent behavior and their unwillingness to show their faces, basically, while they're committing these crimes, assaulting people. This happened at the Berkeley affair that Milo tried to speak at. Now, this whole thing backfired badly, as far as I can tell. It was like what Milo was like. He let them shoot themselves in the foot. He let them essentially play themselves. So, you could say that Milo played them, because now his voice is out there and everybody wants to know. I mean, this is the nature of the beast, the human being. I mean, we want to know. Inquiring minds want to know the truth. And if somebody's trying to keep it from us, we're all the more determined to get to the bottom of things and to know the truth. And so that's what's going to happen. And if Milo admits he's a homosexual, and a lot of people would totally disagree with that lifestyle, but that doesn't mean they don't love and respect Milo as a human being equally with any other human being. And he has something to say that people want to hear. And he has different beliefs. This whole liberal conservative thing is just a tool of division, while the ultimate criminals are at the top pulling the strings. Okay, that's what's going on here. It's the money masters at the end of the day. Okay, politics aside, okay, these people that are running the show, they're fascist. Okay, above all, you've got to understand that it's all about the money. It's all about collaboration and collusion of special interest groups. Okay, and they all, like, planets that revolve around the sun. Okay, like a satellite maybe that revolves around the planet, whatever. Okay, these people are doing that to us. Okay, they are up there controlling everything. Okay, just like the moon controls our tides, these people control our minds. And it's not right that we let them do this. It's wrong, and we've got to all stand up and say, look, how does our owner, okay, let's leave religion out of it. Okay, if you're an atheist, I mean, I could speak to you too, but just purely, how does the universe want us to see this thing? Okay, can we rise above it and just see our humanity and just see that we need to find a way to come together as one family, as one race, and see through the duplicity, see through the lies. Understand that we're being controlled by these money masters, okay? It's a well-known fact, okay? Nobody can dispute it. Nobody will dispute it with me, that poverty could be ended tomorrow. And poverty is a root cause of all our problems. So it doesn't matter if you're a liberal or conservative. If you don't understand that, okay, you don't understand it. If it doesn't matter if you're a communist or a capitalist, whatever you call yourself, okay, if you don't understand fundamentally how we're being controlled, okay, and why we're being controlled, what the motivation, what the incentive is. It's all about oppression. It's all about some people, certain people, being willing to keep other people down because they see it as their way up. Okay, they need to keep people down in order for them to stay up. Okay, that's the way they see it. These are madmen. They're insane people, because the system would work fine if everybody was prosperous. Notice all the rich people out there that continue to go to work, okay, that continue to serve. So the idea that we can't have full prosperity is the big lie. This is where all our problems stem from. So if I'm talking to a capitalist, or if I'm talking to a communist, if I'm talking to a conservative or a liberal, a Democrat or Republican, okay, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing we've got to understand. We've got to understand fundamentally how much we're all being played by these deceivers. Okay, that's what it's a fancy lie. Fancy liars. That's what they are. They're deceivers. They're nefarious. They're surreptitious. They're clandestine. And they act in very cunning, sneaky, deceptive, diabolical manners to maintain control. And if that ever fails, they use violence. They use force. They use the force of the state. This is the way they've been getting away with it all these thousands of years. This has been going on. It's the same old story. People say history repeats itself. No, it doesn't. But there's a lot of common denominators, okay? And one of those things is always poverty, but deliberately imposed, induced poverty on the public. It causes division. It causes strife. It causes animosity. It causes class warfare. It causes wealth and income disparity. It causes poverty. It causes the same monsters to maintain control through the chaos they create, deliberately create, and they foist upon us. So fundamentally, if there's one thing that I get through to people, is understand that truth, that fact. That's it. So we can leave morals out of it, we can leave ethics out of it, we can leave religion out of it, we'll leave God out of it, and just say, look, well, we really can't leave God out of it. God is our owner, okay? Just look at it like that. You have an owner. What is the will of your owner for you, for me, for her, for him, for all of us? It's the same, okay? It's the same. It's equal, okay? It's everything. It's an understanding that this earth belongs to you as much as anybody else, not because I say so or because any man says so. Okay, no man can deny you that fact, that truth, that privilege, that entitlement, that right, because it's a divine right. It comes from above. and your Constitution protects that right. So be empowered with the knowledge and spread it. Help people out of confusion. If you're a capitalist and you sense that the communists are confused, maybe you think they're really evil. Maybe you think they're vile. It doesn't matter. What does our Bible say? It says to love your enemy. So even if you think that you're talking to Hitler, okay, it's not your job to condemn them or judge them, overly judge them. It's God's job. With the measure we judge others, that same measure we too shall be judged. So understand, you've got to assume that the people are genuinely deceived, especially if you see them acting out and they really believe with a fervor and a passion that their way is the right way. So you've got to respect a communist for that much, that they think that violence is the answer. Maybe they prescribed, who was it? Was it Che Guevara that said, better to live on your feet than to die on your knees? Okay, so, he understood as fighting the oppressors. And I think a lot of people gravitate toward that. That's what turns a lot of people communist. And what was it, Fidel Castro, that, he was predicting stuff that's happening today. So, you look into that. When the Pope is Latin or something like that, and and that's when the United States and Cuba will start doing business again, something like that. But we're at that time now. So whether Castro was a prophet or Che Guevara, look. The point is that we're all being deceived in believing that we can and must be divided. This is a lie from the pit of hell. What we need to do is come together around the spirit of truth, around fairness, justice, equity. And remember that justice, particularly in the form of economic justice, is an utter anathema. It's antithetical to everything the establishmentarians want, the status quo that's in control. And remember, just because you're rich, and you're the elite, doesn't make you an a-hole automatically, okay? You can be an egalitarian. You can believe in equality. You can believe in prosperity for all, not for some. And you can be rich and one of the elite. Okay, you're a hypocrite when you're an elitist, when you believe that it needs to be kept, that power, to a select few, to have the prerogative to oppress others because you're so smart. You belong to be at the top because you're a deceiver. You're more intellectual. This is how these people think. So they are, at the end of the day, they're delusional. And so this is what they're offering us: madness, delusion. Okay, that's all they have left. They're telling us that humans are responsible for the climate change. Okay, while they've got they'd be responsible, but it's like in your face, not the pot calling the kettle black. This to the nth degree. Okay, that's who these people are. They're huge hypocrites. So look, they're untenable. They're unnerving people. I get it. I understand. Alex Jones put out this video and he was just going off, man. And I left a comment. Poor bastard. I mean, look, he deserves some peace. The Bible says that God can give us a peace that surpasses all understanding, and we should grasp onto that and say, look, I've got to have just a modicum of faith, just a little bit, to know that there's a loving Creator that wants us to be at peace with one another, and that is willing to show us a way to do that through intellect, through using our brain. If there's one way to make your brain work better, that's by using it. So that's all I'm saying is let's be logical here. Let's say, yes, we're determined to get to the bottom of things, but what exactly does that mean? What does it entail? And I'm talking about sound economic policies, and nobody's talking about this enough. They're talking about, stopping illegal immigration. Great. Well, they're talking about, nothing about, these poor immigrants that are fleeing these countries. I mean, nobody wants to leave their homeland unless you're really distressed, generally speaking. So, what do we do to help make conditions better for where these people are? So, how do we fix the ever-growing wealth and income disparity and growing poverty? How do we turn these things around? What does sound economic policy mean? That's what we need to understand. It means the evidence is that your currency is going to be on a steady trajectory of being worth more and more and more. This is the only way we can do this thing. In order for one thing to go up in worth, the other has to go down. So your cost of living must decrease. Okay, that's it. You must see a deflationary trend, a permanent trajectory of your cost of living going into decline in order for your currency to rise. And that's your evidence. You see your currency being worth more. So you've got to see the cost you're paying for housing costs, particularly the essential human needs, those things you can't get away from. So how are we going to do that when right now, I mean, I just saw in the local mainstream media, they report that they're colluding. The mainstream media here locally is colluding with these they've got like apartment guilds, unions, where they just gang up and collude and say, look, we got to put it out there. It's free, media. We want to raise our rents in unison. That's the way to do it. So there's no place to run. We don't want people to go to where the rent is cheaper. We don't want to have to compete. We don't want true capitalism.